The lessons that I've learned in my career about agricultural research apply at all levels, from research level down to industry adoption and farmer practice. The sort of thing that's really annoyed me is that as classic reductionist scientists, we think about one little aspect of the system and we work on it, and we're very proud of ourselves when we make progress and we think we've done wonderful things for the industry. But I'll just outline two examples of our collective stupidity, if I can put it like that. Back in the 1950s or 40s even, the sub and super era, we made wonderful progress in both the science and the industry application of sub and super. Huge gains in yield. And we were very proud of ourselves. As far as soil acidity was concerned, we worked out that we could solve that problem with 150 grams of moly instead of the old ton to the acre of limestone. And we thought, we've done good. Give ourselves a pat on the back. But then one fly in the ointment called Colin Williams said, you know, the pH seems to keep falling under sub and super. We might have a problem one day. And then in the 1970s, we hit a problem called yellow patch in wheat in this part of the world. And everyone thought, oh, it looks like nitrogen deficiency. It wasn't. It didn't respond to nitrogen. We found low tissue levels of magnesium, but no response to applied magnesium. What we'd actually hit was very low pH and toxicity of aluminium and manganese. We'd been using our moly, but Colin Williams was right. The pH continued to fall, and 30 years later, we needed lime. And we didn't just need a ton of the acre, because by then, the soils were so acidic, we needed often far more than a ton to the acre of lime, and we had subsurface acidity, so we needed to breed for tolerance to aluminium and manganese in our cultivar selection. So we had seen a problem in acidity. We had a solution that we thought was good, but we took our eyes off the ball and the problem actually got worse without us actually seeing it getting worse, and then we ended up with a bigger problem than we had in the first place. We limed, and that was my great claim to fame. I thought, yeah, I've done a good thing here. Look at the responses to my lime trials. I'm wonderful. I've done great things for the industry. We got a phone call one day from a farmer, Bill Baker, just over here at Brucedale. He said, mate, the more lime, the worse the wheat looks. And I thought, oh, no, that's not right. He must be reading the plan upside down. And in those days, we Ronio'd our trial plans. So I thought, oh, I might have had a mirror image or back to front. Gordon Murray and I went out to Bill's place, and sure enough, the higher the lime rate, the worse the wheat looked. So we took some tissue samples back, and Gordon Murray diagnosed take-all. We went back to Bill and said, yeah, we've promoted a disease problem. Bill said, Dad used to talk about take-all, but I've never seen it, because we had a whole generation of acidic soils. High pH, take-all, love it. So we had limed, but we'd set up another problem. Liming promoted a disease called take-all. So we had to then improve our grass weed management, because grass weeds are a host for take-all. So we had to tidy up our rotations, we had to be cleverer with our use of grass weeds. So, acidity, we can fix that with MO. A few years later, the problem of acidity emerged and we were stuffed. We had to use big rates of lime and breed for varieties. Liming, great stuff, but guess what? That set up a whole new disease issue. So we just never foresaw the next step. And it's all been a fairly costly exercise for the industry. One step forward, half a step backwards. There's been no net gain. A second example I'd like to give you is in this part of the world, wheat crops tend to hay off or lodge, or they used to, when we had the old Olympic style wheats. But I remember as a youngster standing at a field day about 1 kilometre in that direction, and the wheat breeder was saying, we've got these wonderful new semi-dwarf varieties from Mexico, and this will solve our problem with lodging and with haying off, because they'll use less water, shorter stalks, we'll be fine. And I thought, wow, that's good, I like this. But the old farmers were absolutely ropeable. these spindly little weeds you've got here, they're going to let all the light in. We'll have more weed problems than we've ever had before. We're going to have more herbicide. We're going to have narrower row spacings, higher seeding rates. At the time I thought, cranky old buggers. Can't get with new technology. They're just set in their old ways. But I wandered around the trial plots afterwards and I had this sinking feeling that, oh, the guys might be right. And of course, over the last 30 years, we've just gone round in circles with row spacings and seeding rates and all those sorts of issues, and I don't think we've made any net progress over those issues. So that's just another example for me that sometimes as researchers, we just don't see the big picture, or we don't foresee the problems we've created by our solutions. And I propose there's two possible solutions to that lack of foresight and a lack of collective memory. The first solution I propose is that we need to maintain a pool of the old-fashioned systems agronomists, the guys, the hard-nosed sort of guys who have been around a long time and have seen it all before. Research proposals to GRDC or to any other funding body, I think should go through the fire of the old farmers and the old consultants who can say, yeah, seen that before, no, been done before, or have you thought about this, or, as in the case of semi-dwarf varieties, they immediately spat out a whole system of problems that the wheat breeder hadn't really thought about in terms of adoption of the semi-dwarfs into the farming system. So I would really like us to have a collection of old farmers and consultants who, either on steering committees or who are the fire through which new project ideas have to pass, or before we extend the results of trials, we run that stuff, the findings of research, through these old farmers and consultants and get their warnings, their advice, before we go public to the general farming community.